After Miami obtained safety Minkah Fitzpatrick in an NFL trade with the Pittsburgh Steelers on June 30th, Dolphins coach Mike McDaniel said on Wednesday that quarterback Tua Tagovailoa had shared his first impression of his former Alabama teammate. "Who is this psychopath? He told me his first on-field impression, which was hilarious," McDaniel said. "As a freshman, they're running gassers and they're gutted. And as a freshman, you have a bunch of peers, upperclassmen that you're trying to prove yourself towards. And then Minkah, just this silent dude in meeting rooms, all of a sudden blacks out, starts talking about overtime and talking all sorts of, not a bad word, but stuff, all sorts of that, and pushing his entire team. And Tua was like, 'Who's this psychopath? I fear him.' First day on the job, before any practice. You got to condition to see where people are at, and it took one team moment for him to feel his impact." So that was a cool story because it was like one of his first memories as a college football participant. They weren't playing football. It was just conditioning. But I think it speaks to the type of impact that a player who reserves his work. He's a soft-spoken guy, but he plays the game the way we envision playing it. Tagovailoa and Fitzpatrick were Crimson Tide teammates for one season. In Fitzpatrick's final game at Alabama, Tagovailoa threw a 41-yard touchdown pass to wide receiver Devonta Smith to lift the Tide to a 26-23 overtime victory against Georgia in the CFP National Championship game on January 8, 2018. "I have so many good things to say about Minkah," Tagovailoa said on Wednesday, "because when I was there my freshman year, that was his last year before we ended up parting ways when he entered the draft. But I have a lot of good things to say about him. The mentor in the way that he was for that locker room back in 17, that 17-year, and 18. I mean, the leadership that he gives off, sort of the standard. I was talking to Mike about it too. With Mink, there's the standard, and then there's someone that you can look at, and you can say, that's a standard. And I can't put words to what that standard is, but I kind of want to gravitate towards that person, and I think that's what Minkah gives off." The Dolphins obtained Fitzpatrick and a fifth-round pick in the 2027 NFL Draft from Pittsburgh in exchange for cornerback Jalen Ramsey, tight end Jonas Smith, and a seventh-round selection in the 2027 NFL Draft. Steelers coach Mike Tomlin on Wednesday called trading Fitzpatrick very difficult. "His experience here and the production that he gave us speaks for itself," Tomlin said. "But you gotta make tough choices, and obviously I've been speaking glowingly about two top-notch players that we acquired in that, but I don't, obviously, lessen the impact of a player like Minkah." The trade returned Fitzpatrick to his original NFL team. After using the 11th choice in the 2018 NFL Draft to add Fitzpatrick, Miami sent the safety, a 2024 4th-round pick and a 2021 7th-round pick to Pittsburgh for first and fifth-round picks in 2020 and a sixth-round pick in 2021 on September 16, 2019. Fitzpatrick earned the first of his 5 Pro Bowl selections that season. He also was a first-team All-Pro pick in 2019, an honor he would earn again in 2020 and 2022. "I don't know necessarily if it was moving on from Minkah," Steelers general manager Omar Khan said on Wednesday. "We had an opportunity to acquire 2 Pro Bowl players that we felt with where we are as a team made sense for us. Have a lot of respect for Minkah. Minkah was a great football player for a few years for us." Tagovailoa said he was unsure if Fitzpatrick wanted to return to Miami after the acrimony associated with his departure. "When we ended up getting Minkah," Tagovailoa said, "I thought that was unique because Minkah started out here and then going there and then coming back. I just wasn't sure how Minkah was going to feel about that given the prior scars that he had with what the media portrayed was happening behind the scenes. And then there's just things that I didn't know where his headspace was. Had lunch with him on Sunday, got to talk to him about a good amount of things. And it's not catching up with me and wide receiver Jalen Waddle because I'm on the opposite side of the ball. I only had him for 1 year and I don't know, it's probably 6, 7 years that I've seen him. I'm a different person than I was in Alabama. He's a different person than he was at Alabama, so just kind of getting to rekindle that fire of a relationship with him. But I'm excited. I'm excited to have him, and we're going to see. I mean, we're competing right now, so it's good fun." The Dolphins held their first practice of training camp on Wednesday, and McDaniel said Fitzpatrick was glad to be there. "Any sort of trade, you try to identify first and foremost that the player you're receiving wants to play football for you," McDaniel said. I'm elated to have added Minka to the team because it's an opportunity to have a player that I've been coaching off of and plays the position the way that we here want to play the position that he gets to actually play. It's a real good fit based on his skill set both athletically and what he's able to do with his transitions in the open field, and then elite ball skills. And then leadership. The National Football League's hard, especially when you're a guy like Minka that puts everything into it. And so there's a lot of things that go on when you're all in with a team, and then your team changes. That being said, you're a football-first guy that wants to be around teammates that care about football, and you're driven to win and write your own story. Was very confident this would be a place that he would fit right in. Know a lot of Bama guys. Know a lot of guys in the NFL. So had a lot of foresight into what he was coming back to, and, shoot, he couldn't get in the 29 jersey fast enough. Last year, the Pittsburgh Steelers lacked weapons on offense. George Pickens and Najee Harris were both solid contributors, but they're no longer with the Steelers. While they added DK Metcalf, the Steelers still don't have great depth at wide receiver. Therefore, they could lean on their tight ends once again. Pat Freiermuth stepped up last year. Pittsburgh also traded for Jonnu Smith, a veteran tight end with a resume of a quality pass catcher. Despite them playing the same position, Freiermuth is excited to team up with Smith. "I think we're going to work really well together," Freiermuth said Thursday via the team's website. "I think he brings a different skill set than I do, and I think we're going to complement each other really well. He's going to complement the whole tight end room really well. And I'm excited about the possibilities of 12 personnel. Arthur Smith sat down with me and showed me what he was thinking. So, I'm very excited. I think it will be a big year for both of us." While they're both tight ends, Smith and Freiermuth aren't the same type of player. The Steelers see Smith as more of a Swiss Army knife, believing he can line up at multiple spots. In contrast, Freiermuth is more of a traditional tight end, although he's still a better receiver than he is a blocker. Take it from Freiermuth himself, who explained what he thinks is different about his skill set versus Smith's. "I think that he's a very explosive guy with the ball in his hands," he said. "I think I'm a good choice route runner, see the field in zones, and I think he's an explosive playmaker. So, I think we can combine those together, especially when we're both on the field. It's going to be a hell of a combination." Freiermuth hits the nail on the head, but he shouldn't short himself on his abilities with the ball in his hand as well. Smith is great after the catch, but Freiermuth is also decent at that. It isn't hard to find a play where he's fighting for extra yards. Together, the two of them should be an impressive pair. Also, Arthur Smith's scheme heavily utilizes tight ends. Freiermuth makes sure to mention that Smith has brought that up to him already. Therefore, the Steelers' offense could feature a heavy dose of tight ends. And Smith and Freiermuth aren't the only players in that room. Darnell Washington figures to have a big presence in the Steelers' offense as well. While he isn't as good of a receiver as Smith or Freiermuth, his massive frame makes him valuable as a blocker. He also stated that he's working on becoming a better receiver, and if he does, the Steelers could get really creative with what they do offensively. With the Steelers trying to compete for a Super Bowl, they'd love to have Freiermuth and Smith both contribute early and often. Metcalf is a great number one option at wide receiver, but Aaron Rodgers is going to need more weapons to make the Steelers' offense go. Having several established receivers in the tight end room should help with that. While I believe that the inherent need for another receiver is overstated for the Pittsburgh Steelers, I do still think a veteran makes sense for this room. I've said since he was released, Gabe Davis is the perfect fit for Pittsburgh right now. The trade for Jonnu Smith and the hope that Calvin Austin and Roman Wilson take that next jump and become competent role players lessen that need at receiver. That said, Davis is still far too intriguing of an option not to roll the dice on. A big vertical threat, Davis is a one-trick pony, but he does his one trick extremely well. No, being able to win on go routes doesn't mean he can slip in as an instant upgrade as receiver number 2, but he can offer more than enough on offense to make him a worthwhile addition. The Pittsburgh Steelers need to sign Gabe Davis before training camp ramps up. While the expectation was for Davis to be a core player for the Jaguars, his lone season there didn't pan out. Because of his contract guarantees, he will essentially be able to play on the minimum this year with Jacksonville fronting the rest of the bill. Just because he's cheap doesn't mean the team needs to sign him. It is just an added bonus. Where the value comes in is his fit in this offense. While Aaron Rodgers will increase the passing attack in Pittsburgh, this still won't be a heavy passing team. That means this team needs to get more out of less from their receivers. Davis does just that, serving as a big play threat who can stretch the field. Given the volume, you don't need a dominant target hog as your second option. Terry McLaurin or even Amari Cooper would likely struggle to find consistent roles on this team. Davis won't need 5 or more targets a game to eat. And while his ceiling is certainly lower than the other names, the Steelers don't need that. They need a guy who can thrive with 25 to 30 catches in a season. Beyond this year, if Davis returns to form, he can also fetch a healthy comp pick next year in free agency. The receiver market is hot, so even as just a role player, he can earn somewhere between $10 to $15 million a season. If Davis is truly washed, his injury last year would say otherwise. The Steelers can just cut him after training camp. There is no risk for Pittsburgh in this deal. Will Davis transform this offense? No, but he can play a core role, add 400 to 500 yards on some big plays, and serve as a great complement for this offense. The Steelers need to pull the trigger on this move as soon as they can.